What's up, everybody? Welcome to Solana Weekly. This is your host, Thomas, and I want to thank you for joining in. Let's take a dive into the latest trends, use cases, and people behind the incredible growth of the Solana ecosystem. None of this is financial advice, but I'm hoping that all of this is alpha. Now let's get to the show. All right, what's up, everybody? This is Thomas, and we've got the return of Omar from AgriDex to break down all that they've been up to in these last couple months. Welcome back to the show, Omar. How you doing?
Hello, Thomas. I'm super excited to be back on the show. This was probably my favorite podcast appearance that I've been on so far. So when I found out that we were talking to you, I had to drop a message to Henry to be like, let me go in and update Thomas on everything that we've been up to.
Yeah, no, and I'm super excited because the last time you were on, it was kind of like leading up to everything, right? Your platform wasn't quite yet live, token wasn't quite yet live, so you guys have uh, been very busy in these last couple months, probably busier than most people, even though, time in crypto goes crazy, right?
Yeah, no, the reason my camera's off is you would be seeing the bags under my eyes if that was the case. It's
Mine
been
too, mine too.
It's been a great time though. I've enjoyed it so much. I've had the opportunity to go out as a company. We've really advanced in the last few months, and it's just been super exciting seeing things that you have out on a roadmap being built and having users actually use it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine so. I'm one of like the big reasons why I was like super excited. I think somebody from your marketing team reached out to me and I was like, yes, I want to talk to AgriDex again because I feel like the last couple of months has been like dominated by like meme coins and like degeneracy and one person making 1,000x, and that's like what's the loudest part of what's going on. But like
Mhm.
the other side of that is like protocols doing awesome things, right? Like you guys are actually helping customers out with what you were planning on doing. This is like real world, it's real world assets, but like real world utility where you're helping people, that crypto is like the base of, right?
hmm Yep, that's exactly right. For and if you want, I'm happy to go into the beginning spiel because I know we're alluding to our past podcast thing, but I'm not sure how many people would have listened to it. But just to
Yeah,
give an
yeah.
overview for the other listeners of the podcast, AgriDex is a digital marketplace for the trade of agricultural goods. We offer instant low-cost settlement, and we provide transparency throughout the entire agricultural value chain. To give an example of why that's so important, in complex jurisdictions, like let's say we're transacting from Holland and Nigeria, banks typically take 3 to 6% in settlement fees and they take up to 5 days. Now, if your currency depreciates during that period of time, you could lose like up to another 10% in real terms. We use stablecoins, and at the moment, more specifically USDC, in order to lower that to less than 0.5% and instant settlement. It also has the advantage of if you're onboarding large amounts of agricultural traders, you're giving people in these regions exposure to the US dollar and protection from volatility. But that's not all we're doing, otherwise, we'd just be a settlement function. We're also trying to build out a whole suite of products so everyone uses our platform from point A to point B. That could be access to invoice factoring, insurance, other forms of trade finance. We want to tokenize not the crop, but the trade between two people. And what that lets us do, it's more of a supply chain efficiency play, and it lets you do some really interesting things and not be constrained by physical inspection and worrying about perishability like you do with tokenizing a crop itself. But that's just a bit of a whistle stop tour of the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to hear because it's a very complicated process to that you guys are essentially replacing, right? And you're able to do
Mhm.
that with, a couple different technologies that we talk about all the time in here, right? So stablecoins proving their value, a lot more stable in a lot of the regions than that you're actually, transacting in or that a lot of your
Mhm.
farmers are actually growing in, and it provides like one currency that they're all willing to transact in,
Mhm.
right?
Yep. No, and I think it's the big thing. I've heard often people talk about like, oh, what about like Great British stablecoin or like a European coin and the like. But My controversial opinion is I don't really. I think like once you've got access to the US dollar and being able to give people exposure to that, I'm not one of those doomers. I don't think that US global supremacy is going to disappear anytime soon. I think that's a very short-sighted view that only looks at economics and doesn't take into account stuff like, the soft and the hard power that exist in America, and also just by being able to introduce stable coins and the general advantage that stable coins have, I think that's only going to contribute further and further to the power of the US dollar. And so we want
Yeah.
to get that in front of people.
Yeah, well, and to even take that one step further, if you guys are on crypto rails and if they didn't want to hold dollars,
Hmm.
they can easily convert those into a euro stablecoin or a great,
Absolutely.
it's they're not limited by that, right? Like that might be what they're transacting in, but that doesn't mean that they have to hold that in that currency, right? But
Yeah.
that creates a great means for actually transacting for a lot of it for them both, right?
Hmm. Yeah. I completely agree with that. That's part of the beauty of crypto. You don't have to be stuck there. It's more so the reason why I make an emphasis of that is we're onboarding people who otherwise probably don't even use crypto in the first place. And
Yeah.
so being able to give them such an easy and relatable onboarding experience into something that everyone understands as well, I think from there you're going to start seeing inflows into other crypto.
Yeah, 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 and I mean it's heartbreaking to hear about these stories of people, losing their life savings value
Mm.
when their currency their local currency doesn't hold its value, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot where it's whether it's inflation or whatever it is, they're losing 20% every year or something like that. It's so for them to see the dollar that is not losing that much, that's a fantastic store of value. So a lot of people are using crypto as a store of value to get access to dollars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly that. Exactly that. But yeah,
yeah,
no, it's a fun time to be involved. I think more and more people are becoming aware of it as well. I think even up until when we spoke back in November, since then we're seeing people much more open to it as well. I think it helps to have that mini little bull run that we had, but now we're also dealing with the trepidation that people experience and then telling them like, no, 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 it's a stable coin. Don't worry,
yeah.
guys. You don't need to stress out. So it was the bull run, that mini bull run was great for getting people aware of crypto,
Mhm.
but then also stablecoins help to ease their fears around what's happening in the markets as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I would imagine that that would provide a pretty crazy marketing. It's like, hey, look at all these coins are going up. Now look at all these coins are going down. So it provides for like a pretty weird experience when you're talking to like a lot of like rural farmers, right? Like that's probably
Yeah.
the last thing that some of them want to hear. But if your treasury's in dollars, it's in dollars, and it's a dollar, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that also plays into one of the key themes that I've been hearing from these conferences. The next big play is really focusing on abstraction,
Yeah,
just really trying to get it away from like the complicated backends and the thing that scares people away and making it, you know, making the word crypto one-to-one synonymous with the word finance.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's kind of where Solana has always won, right? Like
Hmm.
it's the user experience, everything is just been easy, right? Like
Yeah.
sending a quick and really cheap transaction, like makes sense. Like I remember when the first few times I used Ethereum, it was like um, DeFi summer, and it was like $50 to send from one wallet to another. Like there is
Oh
no
my gosh.
way that the average person is going to do that,
Yeah.
right? Like that was like a big problem. So it didn't make sense, but sending something for a fraction of a penny on Solana always made sense to me.
Yeah. And I think that's why, for all of the complaints that people had against meme coins, and there were very many, many valid complaints, I think what it did was the reason why Solana was so good for it is it just found product market fit. It was
Yeah,
just so easy and quick. That's why it became the chain for it. And then obviously that changes, that also changes the culture as well. I think, you look at agriculture in the past as well and how the development of certain tools such as the plow led to feudalism itself. It shows that once you develop these technological tools, that then leads to a shift in the culture and the development of a completely unique culture. And I think that's why we're often lambasted as the crime chain, as
Yeah,
the meme
yeah,
coin
yeah.
chain. It's like, guys, no, we're really efficient. So obviously you're going to get people who come over here for it, but that's not all that's being built there. Solana has
Yeah,
a
yeah,
fantastic builder reputation.
yeah,
And just the way that the ecosystem all helps one another, I can't speak highly enough of it.
yeah,
Pumping
yeah,
my
and
pumping my bags.
yeah, and I mean, anytime there's any sort of like finance or money involved, there's going to be a percent where there's going to be crime, right? Like that,
Yeah.
that's like the way it is, like unfortunately, like there's greed, and it's like when Ethereum had DeFi summer and there was meme coins there was, the same
Hmm.
type of things were going on, but now it's just not on their chain. So, everybody's was a little more mad than normal, I would say. But I mean, rightfully so. There was some bad actors, some insider trading, and they got called out, right? So I think we moved past that, and as Solana kind of always does, they find the biggest issues and look at fixing them, and I think the community is pretty resilient and going to make it through that just fine.
Absolutely. And I think, again, in part, there is also just a bit of that tribalism and envy. And I
Yeah,
mean it just because I remember seeing, Jesse from Base. I saw his
yeah,
tweets where he was lambasting meme coins and the like. But then suddenly when Base started to get involved with it, he's promoting it like every day on his feed, like saying, "Oh, you guys should bridge over." It's like,
yeah.
okay, so you weren't really against it, were you? You were just a bit
No,
jealous of all
no.
the attention that came across from it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like he's kind of, I mean, he's getting mocked a lot by the Solana community, but I mean, he was doing exactly what you're saying, right? He was kind of, talking down on Solana. However, it didn't, like, none of that actually was like his true values or anything. I think he asked, like, shortly after he was talking trash about meme coins, he said, like, how can we bring meme coins to base? So yeah, it's like make up your mind, and the way to think about it too is like, it's crypto. There's going to be a lot of absurdity and a lot of
Mhm.
craziness to it, right? So I think that just kind of like embracing it, letting it run its course, and hopefully, people make it through just fine. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're
I
through
think
that.
people are pooped out from it at the moment. I think
Yeah,
he's
I think so too. I think so too. And in the middle of all that, so there's meme coins launching, and you guys actually launched your token. It was shortly after we spoke, right?
Yes, it was. There was a lot of work put into that. I'm not sure if you saw one or two of the things that we did in anticipation of that mini bull market that came around. We actually transacted the very first bull on chain as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's what he did. And there was a bull on live stream on Twitter. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a royal bull as well that came from someone attached to the royal family too. So we
Oh,
had a
it's
little bit of a
hilarious.
British touch to it as well, just so people knew where we were from. And then, well, speaking of meme coins, we actually let the community name it, and
Mhm.
of course, it was named Moo.
Oh no! And then of course there was a meme coin
Have
associated
to
with that.
represent the Solana community.
Yeah. Oh man. So how did that token launch go? Like, where is it at now? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like I should have looked more into it than I did. I know you guys airdropped a lot out. I was passed over for the airdrop. No, I didn't think I did it, but I mean, how did that go? And compared to, I feel like everybody's kind of like talking about like how tokens should be launched now, or
Mhm.
it's like maybe like walk me through what you guys did and like what your choices were there.
Yeah, so we had a very successful launch listed on some sexes, some dexes. We had people excited about it. As you said about the airdrop thing, people have already claimed all their eligibility for it, and I think the it's going to be in early April where everyone's going to have it dropped in. It was exciting, but it was a really interesting time. So, it comes around the time of that mini bull, and then you see it go up, and then suddenly it's all trade wars, and everything, including RWAs, are down as well. And then
Yeah.
you're dealing with what the thing is externally, what a lot of people see is they see the coin or the token,
Yeah.
and they think that
Yeah.
it relates to the health of the company and what's happening. But honestly, it's at that point, a lot of it is just speculation on there. And I think, we've actually done really well. Like, while a lot of RWAs shed huge amounts of value, especially in the last few weeks, we've actually seen a fair bit of resilience.
Hmm.
And it's, you know, I think it is really interesting how what's retail sentiment versus institutional sentiment. I've never seen it so different before.
Yeah.
While we've had people who are scared to hold on to everything and perhaps a culture that's developed for quick turnarounds based on the fact we are associated with meme coins,
Yeah.
you go to any of these events, I've never seen builders so excited. What's happening from a regulatory perspective, from a technological perspective, what could happen cross chain at the moment, just all of the interesting use cases that are now being brought on chain with people who have connections into these more traditional sectors. So we're starting to see some real traction for the first time. I think, if we've got any retail just listening into this for a bit of fun, I'd say don't worry about the markets right now. You wouldn't see the CEO of Bank of America begging for regulatory changes. JP Morgan, BlackRock, everyone is trying to accumulate and get involved at the ground level. That wouldn't happen if they thought that crypto was dying. And not financial advice, I would be absolutely shocked if we've topped out.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocked.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like the overall sentiment is is crazy. Like it's like everybody's already saying, all right, the cycle's over, and it's like I don't know if a lot of these people have been following like the same news as me, but like I mean like the whole like regulations in the U.S. like crypto was illegal until a couple months ago, basically.
Yeah,
Like all the big cases against all the major exchanges the SEC have all been dropped. Like
yeah.
it's maybe it's not like the news that's going to pump everything 10x in a day, but like long term, like these are incredibly bullish things that are
Massive.
happening. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think also part of the thing is because the administration really signaled all of the things that they were going to do prior to it, when they came into power, I feel a lot of people priced in expecting like these executive orders to come quick and fast and all these changes to happen immediately. And then a
Yeah.
combination of it not happening as rapidly as people were hoping for, and the trade wars meant that people, like the big institutions, have de-risked a bit.
Yeah.
And at the same time as de-risking, people see the chart go down, they get scared, they start selling. You get a few hacks here and there. It's just, it's not been the perfect environment for
Yeah.
people to invest in. But
Chaotic. It's been pretty chaotic, right?
right, right. If you told people a year ago that everyone like they think it's all over, and you told them the price of Bitcoin right now, they'd be like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the short term mentality. It's hard to get over, right?
Incredibly difficult, incredibly difficult. I mean, I don't blame them. I was panicking a bit when my personal bags went down, but I just needed a moment to. It's all
Yeah.
okay, guys.
Yeah, and so one thing that I was recently talking, I had an investor, Ali, on my show, and he was talking about just like how tough it is to like drop a coin correctly when
Hmm.
you're a company, right? So,
Yeah,
and you kind of brought this up. It's like public facing, you see the token, right? So if your
hmm,
token is down 99%, that's like what people see, like regardless of the equity or like the worth of the company and how well they're running. Like the
yeah,
token isn't always reflective of the actual company, and it just like how hard it is to like get that right. And ever since he said that, it's like I've been thinking about that. Like I don't even know how you would do it the right way, right? So it's interesting to hear that. It's good to hear that you guys that the token has shown resilience. But like, how do you think about like the two different parts, like the token that maybe you don't really know, maybe that's public facing, maybe it's retail that's buying it, that maybe they have like crazy expectations, or maybe they don't. I don't know. And then you have like long-term investors that are planning on holding it for 10 years. And
hmm,
then you have a company that you're building where you guys are, handling real world problems, solving problems, tokenizing these transactions in a way that just it like changes the game for a lot of people. Like, how do you view all of that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it also goes back to, I'm not sure, have you seen Jeff Bezos's letter to Amazon shareholders back in
Uh,
99, I believe?
okay, so I've heard people talk about this, but why don't you go into it and
Yeah,
tell us?
just a quick TLDR was Amazon's shares were down 80% from the last year because of, just general market conditions. However, he was listing off everything that's been improving from the company day by day by day, and it just brought a lot of confidence in their investors. And then he ended it with a quote from investor, I think it was Benjamin Graham, and it was essentially, in the short term, the stock market is a voting machine. In the long term, it's a weighing machine. And clearly, a lot of voting was going on in the year 99. So I think that's why I don't like looking at it so much from the short term. It's But that's very difficult because part of the reason why people go into crypto is they want that volatility. They want those big pumps. They want, hence why meme coins got so much traction, even though it was heavily weighted against retail in the first place from being bundled by insiders more often than not. It's difficult to get it perfect. And I think, you could always do comms better. You could always make it clear what's happening. But I think, especially in the subsection of something like RWAs, whereas for other crypto protocols, if you've got a bull market and everything's going up, and then you can artificially like increase yields for your people, and then you create like a kind of positive flywheel effect until the music stops for a moment. That's why you can see those big outside returns and you see those like huge crashes. Whereas something like an RWA project, like respectfully, Solana could crash and it doesn't affect the yields that we'd be able to generate and the people that we'd be able to onboard and using our platform. And so, yes, it's sometimes a bit of a slower cook, but it's more guaranteed and protected. So I think people are now also starting to see that and trying to weigh up. I've seen other RWA groups that are doing fantastic stuff. It's just not reflected at all in their token price, and they're shedding
Yeah.
it away and away. I think, I was speaking, like, I was on a panel with Ondo, and they announced it on a tweet, and it was just after their summit where they were talking about their new L1, all their great new partnerships, what they've done with MasterCard. And the token price went down like 20% over the course of like a week or something. And all they had were people in the community saying, what's the point of this? What are you going to do to get the token price up? And it just creates a lot of negative sentiment. So I think you need to find the balance of listening to your token holders because
Yeah.
they are the people who are supporting you. They're the people who believed in your vision from an early day before anyone else even did. But then you also need to find the balance of ignoring it when they can't see what's being built internally or when the token price isn't reflecting what's actually happening as a
Yeah.
company. So
Yeah.
I think that's a difficult balance that not many people get it right. I wouldn't say that we've got it perfect ourselves either, and it's a learning experience, but we are trying to get better day by day and making more aware and trying to get better at that signaling thing so that people understand more and more what is actually being done and what the long-term value is of holding the token.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I like RWAs for that reason, right? Like I think it's not like, you're not buying these for 1,000 X's, right? Like you're
Mm.
buying these to like look into really cool companies that are solving cool things, right? And I think that's what you guys are doing.
I'd
But now
like
when
to
you
hope so.
yeah, and when we talk about RWAs, right? So real world assets. So is that like when people are buying your token? Is there a real world asset behind it, or how does that work?
So there isn't a real world asset behind our token. Our
Uh,
token is a governance token.
oh yeah,
There
yeah,
are
okay, okay.
RWA companies where you buy it, it is linked to the underlying to the underlying asset itself.
Yeah.
Now, part of the reason why we've not done so is I'll give you an example of one of the things we would tokenize. So let's say Coca-Cola have purchased 200K of cocoa from an individual farmer. Often those payment terms could be anywhere from 30 to 120 days. Let's assume an average of 90 days in this case. But for cash flow management reasons, that farmer often needs the money instantly. So they'll either do invoice factoring or financing, which in simple terms is they'll take that 200K they're owed in 90 days and they will sell it off for 190K but get the money immediately.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you tokenize that trade itself and you're willing to open it up to a set of consumers and you're saying, hey, this is backed by Coca-Cola, so you know they're not going to default on it. You know that you're guaranteed this much yield over this period of time, which is pretty good compared to what you would normally get with like treasuries or the like. You give them access to that, you can fractionalize it, you can open it up, people can take whatever bit of it that they want, do their own risk assessment or backed by our own risk assessment and asset managers, whatever that might look like. You give them access to that guaranteed yield, but not only that, you give them the opportunity to help people who otherwise wouldn't have access to trade finance. I believe I read that Africa has currently an 18 billion trade finance gap in agriculture, where they want access
billion
to
with a B?
With a B, with a B. It's a big thing. So we're not only giving consumers access to that nice guaranteed yield, we're giving farmers access to tools that they otherwise wouldn't have in the very first place either. So that's the part that we are tokenizing. We haven't tokenized that part yet, but there's a lot of, again, you caught me last time when there was some exciting announcement. Hopefully you're going to see some very exciting announcements in the coming weeks as well regarding this.
Cool. So that's okay. So this is the part that maybe I didn't even fully understand last time. So you're actually, so it's almost you're allowing people to take part in lending to people that need access to this, right? So instead of these deals closing right away, they have to wait 90 days or whatever that is. Is it like a user can go in and like lock up funds and lend them and receive a yield for lending in there? Is that right? Or do I have that completely wrong?
No. You're almost right, but if I go in too much depth, I will reveal some stuff I shouldn't be revealing.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it will. But yes, you've got the general idea of it right.
Okay.
But the exact mechanism of it—that's the part I don't want to reveal just yet, if that's all right.
No, that makes complete sense. So it's yeah. So not now, but this is going to be something that any user can go in and use that eventually.
Yes, in theory. When it all becomes clear, I'd love to hop in and give you like a little sound bite afterwards, and then you'll be able to see why I wasn't able to explain anything just yet.
Oh yeah, and if you want, I've done this before where you could even just do like a little video demo of it too. If you want to do that, you're welcome to.
Brilliant. I'll make sure that anywhere where it comes out, it'll be with you guys first.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I actually really like that. I feel like right now there's like a talk about like where the yield comes from, like where can you get good yield from, right? Like originally a lot of the RWAs were going to bring like treasury yield on chain. And that was great when you could get 5% or over 5% really easily, bring that on chain. But I feel like that never really got as much product market fit as like I expected it to, just because you could get that in a savings account, and you come to crypto, you want more than 5% yield, right?
Yeah.
So it that never got it, and now we're seeing like they might reduce the inflation on Solana, so the yield of staking your Solana is going to go down. So it's like, all right, where are we going to get our yield from? And I feel like there's always going to be, like unique or good ways to actually, give users what they want, but also like the other end of lending or yield is people that actually need access to that capital that can't get it in a traditional way or can get it at much better rates, through crypto. So that's actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I think you've summed it up perfectly. I think that is one of our USPs, the people who we will be lending to and supporting as well. So I think that's why we see that the people who are interested in AgriDex is either people who have experience or know stuff about farming, people who care about Solana in general, but then also we have a very strong subsection of people who care about sustainability and equity and making sure that people have access to these advanced financial instruments.
Yeah, well, especially if you said there's an $18 billion gap in the African farming sector, that seems like an incredible amount of money right there.
Yeah, obviously, who knows when you see these McKinsey lines how accurate they actually are versus how many are from like a stressed out 24-year-old rushing to get something across.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and I've seen. I think Henry was just recently in Africa as well. Like he's out there traveling on the ground. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Henry Edward, who's our chief strategy officer, and Brad Barrett, who's our head of Africa, they were all out there doing a roadshow essentially through South Africa, speaking at anything and everything, onboarding the Web 2 and the Web 3 masses. They were at a fertilizer conference as well. They were out in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, and we're just going to have more and more boots on the ground over there, trying to get people excited and explaining to them AgriDex in very user-friendly terms.
Yeah.
So I think we had something with the Zambian agricultural ministry. I think the minister himself is actually going to bring his own honey on chain with us.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's
He was so
awesome.
excited by it. We have some further conversations with different ministries out there, and then again a bunch of other countries that I don't want to front run. RT, it's such a shame, Thomas. I feel like we could always have our talks like 1 month later, and I could talk about so much more interesting things. Like you can now see why I couldn't talk about certain things about like the TGE, the bringing the bull on chain. I was like, I don't want to spoil it because it's such a
Yeah.
cool concept.
No, that's I run into this a lot where it's like it's crypto, so everything moves super fast, right? So what you're talking about now is probably stuff that you were working on a month or two ago, and all you want to
Yeah,
talk about is the stuff that you can't talk about, right?
oh,
Yeah.
that's always the case.
Yeah. So how is that received? So when they're going out and they're talking, are they're like it's like big conferences that they're going to? Is this something where they're the only crypto company that's out there talking? Is it are there multiple of them? Are people like pretty receptive of it, or how is it going?
So it depends which of them that they go to.
Uh-huh.
Um, so if it's the Web3 ones, obviously you're going to have a lot of crypto people doing
Yeah, yeah,
similar stuff. Remittances in the area tend to be quite a big one. But if you're going to the Web2 one, you're often the only blockchain solution in the room.
yeah,
And so you have to really change the way that you talk about it.
yeah,
And that was something that we encountered and something that we want to counteract with. And again, oh God, I'm going to be front running. But essentially, to give you a hint so that I don't just talk and hide everything, we found a way of essentially presenting our platform in a way that abstracts it entirely from crypto for certain audiences. And that's hopefully what you're going to be seeing as well in the next month or so. And it's not a new product or anything like that. It's essentially a new way of presenting and providing the same solution to people who normally would be scared of it. Like
yeah,
you talk to people that you tell them about what you're doing at AgriDex. It's like, oh, that's so great. Like, wow, that's incredible. You mentioned crypto. The chief financial officer, who all he hears is crypto is bad, is suddenly like, no, 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 I don't want to hear anymore. Like, I don't want to
yeah,
be involved. We still have to get over, like, as an industry, we need to get over the storytelling stuff, and I don't think Trump or Libre really helped that much. But we're
no,
getting there. We're getting there.
yeah, yeah. There was a good amount of hope in the beginning when Trump launched the coin, where it was like, all right, the president's launching a coin, he's backing crypto, he's
Hmm.
he's in it for the long term, he's got a lot going for him. But then, I mean, then he dropped the Melania coin right after, and then
Yeah.
it's tough. Maybe we'll forget about a couple of those bad ones, and it'll be good for the long run. But at least for now, it's looking a little dicey.
Well, from a purely selfish RWA perspective, I don't know if I used this phrase in our podcast last time, but I always saw AgriDex as we would have the opportunity to build and generate eyes during the bull market, But during the bear market is where we really prove our value. When yields start tanking, when people have that skepticism with something that's actually rooted in reality, that shows that the stuff we're building in crypto is incredible. And if we even take a fraction of that to traditional industries right now, we'll be able to revolutionize it. And then the next bull market is going to be the big explosion once people realize everything that was being able to be built in the bear market can now go 10 times in the next bull market.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's completely right. And I think one part I keep talking about this. I don't know if it's going to be true or not, but it's like an on-chain super cycle, right? Like there's going to be bull markets and bear markets, but I think that with Solana and with a lot of the protocols like yours that are being built out, like people are going to keep using the chain, right? Like I think that people are like, it's even in the US, like I still plan on using a lot more stable coins myself, and I find myself using everything on chain a lot more than I do a traditional bank, right? So I see that as things get better and better, looking for yield, like a traditional savings account doesn't give you that much yield. So to bring a portion of savings on chain, like, makes sense to me. And I think that more and more people are just going to be doing that. So I think that even in a bear market, I think we'll still get users. So I don't know if it'll be, I didn't think we'd fluctuate down, we're down over 50% on the Solana high, but maybe I'm completely wrong, but I still think there's going to be a lot more users, even throughout, whatever the price of Solana is. I still think those users will be here using it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree on this. As more and more people come on chain, they also start to be more and more educated and fall less for the general public narratives of crypto, how everyone thinks it's all scammy and the like. And yes, Trump sucked and it really got a lot of people off. I was reading from one of the Dragonfly guys about how 99% of the new wallets that were created for Trump didn't do anything else except for interact with the Trump coin.
Oh,
But I
really?
think, yeah, it was brutal. I didn't expect it to be that bad. But I think over time, as we get better at education, as we get better at storytelling, as marketers are also becoming more prominent, you go to these events, and some of the biggest ones are ran by some of the best marketers in the space who are come from a Web 2 background, but are really passionate about Web 3 and are starting to understand, okay, how can we take the conversations and the stuff that excites us who understand the jargon and make it more interesting to people off chain as well. And you're starting to see it also, not to shill the super team too hard, but Solana Super Team UK, they're doing some really great events like related to music and just general culture, and how you can just bring anything on chain, or like how bringing certain aspects of an industry on chain lets you create use cases that have never been seen before. You can properly compensate people in traditional industries like music in particular. I'm a big electronic music fan, and COVID destroyed the scene completely.
Oh,
Previously,
yeah.
it used to be people would stream music and you'd kind of accept that you're making no money at all from Spotify. But the whole point was you generate enough hype and listeners and metrics so that you can play club scenes,
Yeah.
and then that's where you make all the money. But then COVID killed
Clubs,
that
clubs all
completely.
shut down. Yeah.
Yeah, the clubs shut down. People, most of the money came from bars. People aren't buying drinks as much when they go out as well. They're on big health kicks, and
Yeah.
you see like some of the stuff that's happening in order to help people get compensated. One of the first ones was NFTs, but there's a lot of very exciting stuff being built on chain, reimagining how does finance in general just work. Why are we happy to accept where it is right now, and why can't we imagine something new and better that's more for the people as well?
Yeah, yeah, no, I 100% agree. So when I had a company on, or a team on from HIO, they do music. It's
Okay.
kind of like a Spotify competitor on Solana, and
Oh,
I released a
lovely.
couple. I released a couple episodes on there. It's a pretty cool platform. I don't think it's getting the traction that I hoped that it would, but I think they're still doing it. They're doing a good job. Um, and then my other favorite one that's kind of along those lines is Drip House. So I release this podcast on Drip House every week. So it goes on. It goes on. Anybody that's subscribed to my drip house gets an NFT sent out directly to their wallet every week, and they can play it from their wallet or from the drip house app. So it's pretty cool. I like that. I like that. It's kind of changing the idea of what an NFT is, rather than like a scarce, asset with unique characteristics or traits or whatever. It's like, hey, with compression, we can send these things for incredibly cheap. It basically costs them nothing to send out, so you can distribute it to thousands of people for nothing. So it's pretty cool.
That's super interesting that you mentioned that, because I actually met someone in London who is doing something for real life experiences. I think their group is called just like IRLs or something like that. And essentially you go to an event. I think we went to, it was like an investor dinner. And for the event as well, they just created like essentially a chip that you touch on the back of your phone, and suddenly you've got an NFT that symbolizes the event you're at and everyone who was there as well. And it's just almost a way of creating those permanent memories. And I just love the way that people are taking the technology and turning it into their passion project. I'd love to, if you're interested, just get you in contact with the founder who's running it as well, because I think you'd have some very interesting experiences together that you could like relate over.
No, I love that idea. I mean, the idea of like, all right, you meet some people, you maybe if it's Solana focused, it's like, all right, like I met this community at Solana, I listened to this great talk and met these people, and then you go off on your way and you forget about it. But if you have like an NFT, it's like, hey, I'm part of this community. They can, know your wallet address, so maybe they could send like an invitation to the next one or something along those lines. Or with that NFT, you can join this chat or whatever it is. I feel like there's like a lot of cool functions, a lot of cool things that could be built out of that. So I like that. Yeah, definitely. Love to look into that.
No, for sure. As soon as this is done, I've just put down a reminder. I'm going to get you two in contact so you can at least have a preliminary chat with him.
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome. So let's see. So how else is everything going at AgriDex? You guys had clients, I think, already last time, but you went live with them already. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we've gone live. We've done some more transactions on chain since then. On our tour of Africa, we've onboarded a few other very exciting people that, again, I can't front run and announce, unfortunately, but there's a lot of excitement for the product. I think the big thing is also, while we do mention Africa as our stomping ground, that's not the only area we're focused on. It just happens to be our main first area where we're putting our focus on. There's other places like, Middle East is very focused and concerned about food security in particular. Latin America, just an incredible opportunity and huge openness to crypto solutions just in general as well. So we've had a lot of traction from there. We've done more new stuff on chain, new things to announce as well, and I'm excited for the full launch when anyone and everyone can come onto it.
Me too.
There's been a few teething problems, of course, as with anything over here, but the progress has been exciting. I would imagine so.
One thing that I was thinking about, that at least for us in the US, like the regulations are coming off a lot of like there's going to be a lot more of like, hey, you can send stablecoins to a bank, or like Bank of America is looking at having a stablecoin, right? So before, that was like the biggest like area that the government could regulate or could like prosecute people, was when you're like from exchanges to bank accounts, right? Like that was always kind of the sticky part for us here, and I imagine that's probably everywhere. But like with that lightning, like I see that being like a really big opportunity, right? Like especially for businesses. Like if you have dollars on chain and you are scared to put them in a bank account, that is like an issue, right? Like that is a red flag. But without that in the way, like I would imagine there'd be a lot more businesses that are comfortable doing that, right? Like have you guys seen that at all, or is this something like, hey, like maybe the US is actually like going to be a viable place for us to maybe do business in the future, or how are you guys seeing that?
Yeah, no, definitely what they're seeing with the regulations is making people a lot more open to it. I think yes, they had their concerns about when we were talking about meme coins and the like, but the biggest thing was it's the regulatory uncertainty. People
Yeah.
want to ensure that if they move their operations to X or whatever, you need to make sure that it doesn't fall through because this is a constantly churning machine with loads of mouths to feed and people to keep happy. And when it's
Mhm.
already difficult to onboard them from their existing operations, bad regulations don't help at all. But that openness of the administration to cryptocurrency reforms is bleeding out to everywhere else. And it's fantastic that it's the US that's doing it. Because if the US does it, everyone else has to adapt or die at that point.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question is like, are you guys seeing that as well? Like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a stablecoin bill that is set to pass in the US like relatively soon. Like, is that something that you guys are seeing in the UK and other places as well now?
Well, I see it elsewhere. I'm not sure about stablecoins, but I know like once the US started talking seriously about Bitcoin strategic reserve, you
Mhm.
start seeing Thailand exploring it, Singapore, like loads
Yeah,
of people are trying to explore it because you don't want to be left behind if the US can accumulate, and just pump the price itself, and you
yeah,
come in holding the bag at that point. So even if I think you're a crypto skeptic, just seeing the fact that the US is leading on this means you have to be aware of it, or else you're setting yourself up for failure.
yeah.
Um, with regards to British legislation, um, you know me. I think you heard my thoughts beforehand on what I think about the British regulatory landscape and how slow it is. But it's really interesting because the amount of optimism that there is, the amount of incredible talent there is in the UK. Like we've got Oxford, Cambridge,
Oh yeah,
Imperial, Edinburgh, King's, like some of the best research facilities in the entire world, and so many fantastic companies are created and incubated here, but then they have to leave, often due to regulatory reasons once they reach a certain size.
hmm,
I think we're going to reach the point where push is going to come to shove and they're going to realize that they need to open things up, or else you're going to see too many people leave out. I told you previously, I think it's now 30% of foundation doctors in the UK are moving to Australia.
oh no way.
They're bleeding incredible amounts of doctors just because, what's the point of being a second year doctor if you get paid 35,000 a year after
Yeah,
6 years of education, right?
oh yeah, yeah. That doesn't even chip away at your debt, right?
No, nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Yeah,
And you see it in so many other fields, people just leaving. The tax is becoming more and more regressive as well. It really, the taxing punishes builders, but benefits people who generate passive income from like real estate, for example. The incentives just aren't there at the moment, but you're also
yeah,
having, and you've got the NHS, you've got a really big welfare state, and all of it needs to be paid somehow or another, but you've also got a population pyramid that doesn't look like it's able to sustain that as well. So I think it's going to reach a point where we've said this for 10 years at this point, like, oh, something's got to change. But it's really getting to the point where something has to change.
yeah. To be honest, it sounds like it's the same thing here in the U.S., right? Like,
Right.
a lot of that, it's like the same thing, and it's like, this is something where like at least Trump's trying to tackle it, right? Like
Yeah.
he's doing it in a pretty chaotic way, but like I think at the core of what a lot of he's doing is like he's kind of like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing like what they can do, and I and at least I don't know if this is true, but at least a few years ago, it seemed like UK was like pretty big for crypto, or a lot of teams were moving there from the US, right? Because the US like choked out anybody that was trying to build anything in the US. Like you were you if you didn't have like an amazing like law firm on call, like
Yeah.
you were pushed out of the US. Like Coinbase has been sued, for 10 years straight by the SEC, right? Like they just closed their case like a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, right? So the US pushed a lot of people off the shore. And for a while there, I feel like they went to the UK for, like
Yeah.
they were pretty open. I don't know. I don't even know. A few years back. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah. So I believe it was during Rishi Sunak's premiership where he wanted to make the UK like the home for digital assets, and
Yeah.
he started pushing some really like forward-thinking legislation and just making it much easier for people to transact and conduct business in the UK. Now we're reaching the opposite end. There's People were tired from 14 years of Tory party rule and like ever worsening economy, and so we had the Labour government under Keir Starmer come in. Now Labour are well, this iteration of Labour are pretty authoritarian. You know how after the whole thing happened with the video stuff on Pump Fund is now banned in the UK. Can't
Oh, is
access it.
it? I mean, those videos were terrible, so
Yeah,
I
no, they were like
they
fair
needed
play.
to be
Like that was
banned.
kind
Yeah, yeah,
but so they do stuff. It's not like they're trying to be punitive and like, oh no, you shouldn't do that. It's like I think it does come from a place of, oh no, most people don't understand this. We've got to protect them from it. But often it's
yeah,
so heavy-handed, it tends to slap the face of innovation.
yeah,
And I don't think they've found the balance yet. I I I hope they go back to it and they're able to find the balance and look more towards what's happening in America. They want to preserve the special relationship, and they might follow suit because it seems like we are starting to just really do a don't annoy America. That's kind of our new foreign policy. Let the EU take most of the brunt of it, but we just like abstain or like don't annoy them too much. Um, but I don't know. I think it'd be a fool's game for me to predict what's happening with British politics right now, especially with the fact that yes, they've got the next few years. I'm not sure how much they're going to come back. What's going to happen with the threat of reform? Are they going to be taken into? We could have a whole hour talk about
yeah,
politics,
yeah, yeah,
so let me not
yeah.
get into it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, and I mean, London is like one of like the major financial hubs, right? Like it's huge for finance. Like you think of finance, it's like New York, London, right?
Yeah.
So they should be at the forefront, or at least understanding some of it. So
Oh, yeah, and I think that won't ever change after Brexit. So many people said like, "Oh, they're going to move the brand, like everything from the UK. It's not going to be the financial hub anymore. They're going to move to Frankfurt." They kind of forgot the fact that they're human as well. People want to live in London. Like you're right
yeah,
next door to like the best law firms, best insurance. You can't like just up and move the financial district into the middle of nowhere in
yeah,
Frankfurt with nothing for them to spend their really large like paychecks and bonuses on. So
yeah,
I think it's good. Yeah, I think just because of how intertwined it is with the financial industries, I'd like to think that once the regulation lets them have a bit, a slice of the pie as well, we're going to see much more forward-thinking stuff. My only fear is they might make it forward-thinking just for major institutions that they could still protect retail, but really shut it off to innovation at the lower level.
yeah, yeah, and oh yeah, that's crazy. So do you guys do any like meetings with government or anything like that, like
Yeah,
to
so
talk to them about what you're up to? Because I feel like you guys would be such like the prime example for a crypto company on, hey, like you're hearing all about like meme coins and this, but like look at what we're doing, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned that. We actually won Stand with Crypto's competition for
Oh, did you?
the best use case in the UK, and Henry actually presented in Parliament
Oh, awesome.
AgriDex and told them about it. Yeah, there's some great photos out there that you could see. So we've got a meeting also with Coinbase's team in April as well, following that they can understand more about what we're doing. But they're definitely aware of it without, again, not front running. Yes, it's interesting you mentioned that. We have been having some conversations and trying to make them understand more about what's going on, how AgriDex works, why it's handy, why not to be so scared of crypto.
Yeah.
Um, one of our co-founders, Russell, is very well uh, connected. He was former head of equities research at Deutsche Bank, and he's also had some past involvement and collaborated with the FCA, which is our version of like the SEC over here as well. But yeah, again, let me not front run any news, but yes, you're right. We have been having some conversations.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I feel like you guys are the right people to be doing that. Um, oh, that sounds good. So cool. And one other, let's see. So I was talking to a Colombian coffee farmer, RWA Arabica or RW
Shout
Arabica.
out
Not sure.
RWA Arabica. I always see
Yeah,
him in our comments.
yeah. So Ape Dude is I don't know. That's his name that I chat with all the time. He's like super energetic. He's awesome, but he had good things to say. I'm not sure if he's using your platform or maybe.
So again, I think it's the location. Honestly, we open up in South America, he's going to be the first guy I'm personally onboarding onto it. The amount he
Yeah.
supported us, I'll advocate for him. Let's get his beans on chain.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm gonna buy some of his beans. So that I think that they're like going to market relatively soon. He's like, I'll
No,
accept
don't worry,
Trump
we're
coin.
definitely aware.
Yeah. Are you okay? Good. Good. Yeah. No, he's cool. I love his energy, and yeah. I mean, he's awesome.
No, no, no. I'd be excited to hear more and find out more. It's not been that we've not wanted to engage, it's that I've wanted to engage with him at a point where we could actually do something together with him and onboard his stuff on there. But no, the marketing team, everyone's always excited when we see him comment underneath our stuff. And that I think that just goes for all of like the reply guys as well. There's sometimes they'll be commenting and often people won't respond from like the brand account, but no, we genuinely when we put out like tweets and we see the same profile pictures there again and again, uh off the top of my head, Space Dino, there's this one guy who it begins with A, has an anime profile picture. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a complicated name. I see you guys in the comments all the time. I know you've only got like 40 followers or something, but we're always aware and we get excited when we see that in there. So thank you very much for that. Just a
Yeah.
quick
Huge
shout out
huge
to the
shout out to the
reply.
reply guys. Yeah, reply guys run the world. You know.
No, for real, for real. And I don't think they get enough love or
Yeah.
acknowledgement from the main accounts, but the people behind the accounts are always aware of what you're doing.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah. Oh man, that's exciting. So, there's a lot that you guys are doing that you can't talk about. What's anything coming up in the near future that you guys are planning on doing and that you can talk about?
Yeah, so the thing that I was alluding to about the actual tokenization of assets, you'll
Hmm.
start to see something coming out about there. Just different groups that are also going to be helping with bringing those different financial instruments on chain as well.
Hmm.
Should hear some exciting stuff there. The Solana RWA Council is also ramping up activity.
Oh yeah, I meant to ask you about them. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about what that is and
Yeah,
what
so
you guys have been doing with them.
it's a initiative that we started up, and we the very first cohort was ourselves, Baxus, Collector Crypt, and Parcel, and it's essentially an initiative that discusses everything me and you have been discussing. People think of Solana, they think of X, Y, and Z, but there's a lot of incredibly cool stuff that's being built on it that's taking advantage of Solana's great efficiency, amazing developer community, fantastic transaction speed, parallel execution model that makes like RWA use cases that wouldn't be viable on certain other chains. It's only possible on Solana, and we're
Yep.
just big advocates for Solana, and we're trying to show people that cool stuff in the RWA space is being built there. Right now, it's mainly going to be focused on, the onboarding stuff. We recently got the OR guys on, who I absolutely love.
Oh yeah, I like them too. Yeah,
Yeah, people
hard
don't
hat Chad.
big up hard at Chad and Neil in particular. Love chatting to that guy. It's always a
Yeah.
30-minute call that turns into a 90-minute by accident, so I make sure to book it when I have some free time. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
they're
they're
gonna
doing
they're
some.
gonna come on. They're gonna come on the pod eventually, but I think he wanted to come on once they release their new V2 or whatever it is. So
Ah, brilliant, brilliant. The stuff they're doing, it's really interesting. Their plans for OR and Global Boost, but let me save that for when you have their chat with them. We've got a new group that we'll be announcing this week as well, who are joining, and then a couple more. So you're going to see a big ramp up of activities of
awesome.
different RWA groups being involved. And then from there, I think we want to do something more, because it's not just about co-marketing. You see so many token projects just get together and all it's like, oh, let's do marketing and collaborations. We want to actually push thought leadership in the RWA space and bring together like all the unique industries that were in there with a potential future research paper. And then from there, side events as well. You're starting to see when you go to conferences, there's so many big ones and everyone competing for mind share, and it's so fragmented. I think they increased by 150% in the last year, side events at major conferences. We want to find it and give people the opportunity to consolidate and come over and learn about RWAs on Solana in one spot all together. And then from there, once you're able to combine those resources, really start to push things from okay, where is Solana going as an ecosystem? How does that align with what we're doing? What's good? What can we promote? What do we think is actually quite useful that we should be advocating for within the ecosystem as well? So it's just getting together those fragmented groups and putting them all into one bucket so that people can understand why we love Solana so much and why we built these RWA projects on there, as well as what we see the future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that there's a lot of like really cool use cases for it, and I think I don't want to sidetrack too much, but like one thing that like I take away from all the meme coins is like retail came in, and it seems like retail lost a lot of money buying things and hoping for 1000x's. But what I'm more interested in is seeing like, all right, like what if people are coming on chain to buy something that's building for the next 10 years? They're like, there's a real asset, there's a real company behind it. There's a whole team behind it where it's like, people that come on chain to do that, they're gonna come on and stay for a while, right? To totally reframe their mindset from like, hey, you're not coming on for a day to gamble. Like you're coming on like there is a lot that you can do, and you know what? You're not like you don't have the risk of going to zero tomorrow or in the next hour right away, right? Like there's risk involved with everything, as you know. But if you're investing in like real companies and following them along, like your people are going to be around for a while, and that's what we want, right? Like we want to build a community for that.
Yeah, and I think we definitely have, as a chain, we suffer from the whole the day trippers coming along to chill just for a little bit and then head off elsewhere. And I think the inherent friction that the gas fees, transaction times from like Ethereum had, and like how that led to like slower cooks, meant that people got their attachment to coins, to teams, to protocols, to NFTs. And then, yes, when they lost money, by that point, they'd already built that kind of connection. The speed makes it so it's harder to build that connection.
Cycles got way too short.
Way too short. Way too short. And yeah, I'd like to think that maybe we could be like a little hub or refuge to explain to people, this is some of the other stuff that's being built on Solana. Yeah, you probably won't get 1000x instantly, but what you will get is you'll get some guaranteed high quality yields. You'll be able to have access to things that you otherwise wouldn't have unless you're like an accredited investor in some cases. You'll essentially be able to have way more things at your fingertips in a much easier route than ever before, and it's all being built on Solana.
Yeah, it's such a good narrative. I love it. I mean, I want to help out wherever I can. So, whenever you guys need something, or if I can help out with the show at all, I'm happy to do that. I had
I'd love that, honestly. Like, we have our spaces as well, and since it's been smaller, we've been running them, from ourselves, like hosting it. But to have someone who could actually be able to really push the direction and knows the question, I'd love to be able to have you on to host one of the spaces for us.
Sure. Yeah. Let me know. I'm happy to.
Brilliant. Well, no, thankfully now we've got something in the calendar, so we know when we'd be able to be in contact.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Cool. Well, I'm excited about everything you guys are doing. I want to keep this going. It's maybe when you guys have when a few more things come on, the next launch comes on, feel free to come on, and even if you just kind of want to show what you're doing, and have it be like a quick episode or anything along those lines, I'm happy to do it. I'm a supporter, so I want to see you guys grow.
Oh, I'm delighted to hear that, Thomas. No, I feel the same way. Love the podcast, love the stuff, and just your general approach to it. always happy to be on here anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
We'll do next month.
I love talking to you too. So anytime you want to come on and chat, just let me know.
No, brilliant, brilliant. No, I'll definitely be on here. I think next time, probably around early summer, if you
Okay.
have some availability there. I think
Okay.
that'd be a good time where we should have some good updates, be it from the business, the traction, some stuff from the Web 2, thing I was telling you how we were positioning it for Web 2 people. I could probably talk about that more because it'll be formally announced by that point. And yeah, we will have a million topics. The bags under my eyes are only going to get bigger and bigger by that point.
No, you gotta get your sleep. You gotta get your health. You gotta focus on that, right?
Ah, the building never stops though. The building never
Yeah, yeah,
stops.
yeah. That's true. That's true. Sounds good. Well, Omar, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. I look forward to what you guys are up to. We'll keep in contact and hope to see you guys just grow and grow.
Thank you so much for that, Thomas. The pleasure was entirely mine, as always. Thank you so much for hosting us. Thank you so much for being a supporter. And thank you for just what you're doing in uplifting the different brands and people in the Solana ecosystem. I think you're like a shining example of why so many people love the ecosystem.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, this is what I love doing. I love talking to people building in the space because they're all great. So appreciate that.
No, you're welcome anytime at all, mate. And I am getting that olive oil over to you tomorrow, 12 o'clock in my calendar. You're getting a photo.
Yes. All right. Well, I appreciate that. And thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Omar.
Thank you. You take care.
All right. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Solana Weekly. Once again, this is Thomas Bahamas, and I have one final ask for you guys. If you could, please subscribe on whatever player you're listening to. You could leave a review. That would be amazing. If you want to shield me your bags, work for them. But yeah, really appreciate it. And as always, this is not financial advice, but I want you guys to accelerate, move forward, and let's get this bag. I'll catch you guys next week.